Hello and welcome, wherever you're joining us from. We're really pleased to have you with us. My name is Ruth Wright. I am the head of lifestyle verticals at Euronews. And Living is the Euronews vertical dedicated to sustainability, the environment, and green innovation. If you want to follow us right now, you can find us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, and our handle is Euronews Living. And of course, on the website and on the Euronews app. Just to reassure you, we are all socially distancing or working from home offices, hence why we are not wearing masks today. So just to tell you a little bit more about Living before we get started with our guests, we cover news daily, as well as features and commissioned pieces from the best minds in the environmental space. Our partnership content with brands and companies are a really important part of what we do. It's something we really value at Living. So if you have eco news or sustainability successes to share, we'll be happy to work with you. Feel free to get in touch with me or my colleagues anytime. Now, on to today's debate. You'll be hearing from our panel all the different ways that they're reducing the carbon footprint of their operations. You're going to hear about lots of really inspiring projects and initiatives, so I recommend you have a Word document or a notebook at hand because there's going to be lots you want to note down. I want this to be really interactive, and we always hear back from our audiences that the more interactive that they treat these debates, the more questions they send in, the more that they get from it. So please do leave your questions and comments in the comments box, and we'll come to those throughout the debate. We're really lucky to have with us today two professionals from the sports and beverage industries. Sandrine Sommer, who is Chief Sustainability Officer at Moet Hennessy, and Anne-Cecile Turner, who is Sustainability Director at the Ocean Race. And why are we talking about all of these things today? And why does Living exist? Well, simply because the climate crisis is the biggest story of our generation. How we all act now will determine what sort of planet our children and our grandchildren inherit from us. But when it comes to business acting in the interests of nature and the environment, consumers can be cynical, and rightfully so in some cases. Does this company really care? Is it just greenwashing? Are they just protecting their bottom line? So to kick things off, my esteemed guests, could you introduce yourselves, tell us what you do, and maybe tell us a little bit about how you got here? Anne-Cecile, let's kick off with you.
Hi, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you are in the world nowadays. So I am Anne-Cecile Turner. I'm the Sustainability Director of the Ocean Race. The Ocean Race is a round-the-world ocean race, one of the pinnacle of ocean racing. There are in racing three main events: the America's Cup, the Olympics, and the Ocean Race. And it was previously called the Volvo Ocean Race. And how I got there, I remember quite vividly. In fact, I had an enlightening moment. It was 20 years ago during an event called La Cité de la Réussite in Paris. And I just realized that we couldn't operate the same way as before. We couldn't live, we couldn't transport, eat, operate the same way as before. And that's how I got into sustainability. It took me a lot of time to convince, to integrate, to convince that we had a mission and a purpose. But I find that we are now at a tipping point.
Thank you so much. I really hope we are. Sandrine, could you tell us who you are and how you got to where you are?
Yeah. Hello, everyone. Good morning. I'm Sandrine Sommer. I'm Chief Sustainability Officer at Moet Hennessy. Moet Hennessy is a luxury wine and spirit activity for LVMH Group. It means we have four activities. We have champagne with Moët Chandon, Ruinart, Dom Pérignon, different ones. We have spirits with Belvedere, Glenmorangie, and Hennessy. We have still wines from everywhere in the world, and we have what we call sparkling wines with the Chandon wines or Chandon Maison. We use Maison, in fact, in the luxury area instead of wines. And concerning me, I have been joining LVMH for more than 20 years right now. And beginning, I was a packaging director for different maisons, for Moët Chandon, for Make Up Forever, and for Guerlain. And in 2007, everything changed for me. Quite Anne-Cecile, I started to work on the sustainable development at Guerlain. In fact, because my CEO, my Guerlain CEO, was convinced that sustainability is key for brand, key for to stay sustainable and to continue, to transmit the know-how, the savoir-faire, the quality, and everything. So, in fact, I have been working 13 years on sustainability, on commitment within Guerlain. I have just joined Moët last April this year.
Thank you, Sandrine. I feel really privileged to have so much experience here with us today. It's brilliant. And I also feel already like drinking a glass of champagne, so I'm sure our audience will be feeling the same. Before we get into the details of what you both do in the sustainability space, I'd love to start broad and look at the big picture. This has been a year like no other, I'm sure we all agree. And one of the maybe slightly more positive things that's come out of it is that as a journalist, at least, I'm seeing a lot of discussion of the climate crisis from in spaces and media that previously really didn't cover it. Governments and the big polluters, of course, still have a long way to go. But it feels like on the level of, let's say, ordinary people, there really is an appetite to want to know how to live greener and reduce their impact. So I'd love to hear from both of you within the business world. How does it feel at the moment? How has it felt this year? Do you feel that people are waking up? Sandrine, maybe you could go first on that one.
Yeah, I am sure people are waking up. How can do that differently? And just to give you an overview of how we have decided to structure our sustainability program. First of all, I would say all Maisons have a lot of initiative for a long time. We are working on it for more than 20 years everywhere in the world and in our vineyards and in our terroirs. But we have decided to develop a manifesto, a commitment at Moët. We call it Living Soils, Living Together. In this manifesto, in fact, it's first of all to remind us that as a leader of our category, we have a special responsibility on this subject. And in fact, this manifesto is here as well to remind us that in our DNA, we have to take care of nature, but also we have to take care of people. And thirdly, in fact, in this manifesto, we remind that we can't succeed alone. And we need the support of all our stakeholders to go further. So, in fact, our program, our sustainability program, is divided into 4 key commitments. Yes, maybe you can leave the picture. The first one is regenerate our soils. As I said, we are living and we are inspiring from the soils. So we have to be sure the quality will stay good and will stay good for the future. The second one, as you said, is reduce our climate impact. The third one is we are not working only for our own interest, and we really want to engage the society as a whole. And the last one, but not least, is empowering our people, our team. Our team is key for us, and we need them, and they need some sense. So we are really, it's very important for us to work for them as well.
Thank you. And Anne-Cecile, how would you respond? Do you think in the business world people are waking up to this crisis?
Well, I think we are inheriting a system, and the way I see it is that the responsibility hasn't been understood and recognized by the world leaders fast enough. And now people are waking up in many ways, and it hasn't been understood and recognized because people didn't know, probably. But we have been knowing, and the science and the conservation world has been telling us for a long time, and the action was not big enough. But now I think that the pressure is coming, top down and bottom up as well, and people are waking up strongly. Just the sign that our President Emmanuel Macron is launching a referendum on the climate issues is really showing that he's taking a different stage. On our business world, as a major sport event organizer, one figure I like to quote is that 80% of our new business leads in terms of brands or organizations that want to support us are coming to see us because of sustainability. And because that we've shown that our sustainability initiatives have been recognized during the last edition of the race, we've managed to create a movement specifically on ocean plastic pollution last time that is really, engaging, innovative, positive, that brands want to associate with us to be able to, benefit from this good impact that we're creating. So it's definitely waking up. Now we don't have time, and we need to accelerate action in a coordinated and truthful manner, I would say.
Lovely, thank you. I just want to pick up on that point about responsibility, because I think it's a really interesting question. And it's something that we hear from our readers, that there's a perception, at least, that there's a lot of passing the buck. Who do you both see as ultimately responsible? And it's a big question, and there could be lots of different answers, but I'd love to hear what you think, either from a personal or a professional point of view. Is it the responsibility of all of us? Is it the responsibility of the biggest polluters, the biggest companies? Anne-Cecile, do you want to come back on that one first?
Yeah, and I think it's a great question, because at the end of the day, I think everybody's involved. We are absolutely all have a role to play. I would not cut any kind of discussion, because we have all a responsibility. We're in this together, for sure. And the only solution and the only way out will be through collaboration. And at the Ocean Race, we've understood that. So we go beyond responsibility, because responsibilities, of course, are, our needs, in terms of operations and actions. But people around us, our stakeholders, are expecting us to act as well. And it's at the core of the value of the Ocean Race now. So, and I think what's something that we've understood, that is our voice. We have a responsibility. We are a major sport event organizer, so we have also an impact. But the potential of engagement, and maybe we could put the slide we have on the program we are having, is massive. And that's where I think the content and the positivity and the real actions can be highlighted. So we have a program in 3 pillars: impact, footprint, and legacy. So we are obviously reducing our own impact, but and our own footprint, but we've initiated programs that will maximize the voice of the Ocean Race worldwide through a very strong programmatic action. So it could be Ocean Race Summit Series with engaging influencers worldwide on the issue of ocean protection and accelerate ocean restoration. It's our education program for primary and secondary schools, which is going to be translated in more than 10 languages worldwide. And it's our science program as well. In science, we are equipping all the boats with science devices that are taking data from the ocean to better understand what's at stake out there and to bring the knowledge to land where the real decision is. So I think really understanding the impact and the voice that any kind of organization has is not only about the responsibility. It's going beyond that, and that journey is exciting as well. It's not only about measuring the impact; it's also engaging others in the movement we're creating.
Thank you. Before we go on to you, Sandrine, I just want to remind anyone just joining us, this is a debate from Euronews Living, and my guests today are Sandrine Sommer from Moet Hennessy and Anne-Cecile Turner from the Ocean Race. And any questions from those of you watching, we'd be really pleased to receive them, so please do put them in the comments box. Sandrine, back to you. What do you see as your responsibility as a maisons, I should say, instead of a brand?
Yeah. You know, responsibility, as Anne-Cecile said, is huge and quite the same. In fact, I think everybody has to be responsible. And across surveys, you know, consumers say that large corporations are as responsible for helping to solve environmental and social issues as governments are. I think what is very important, and we have all a role to play, you know, for the climate crisis. All citizens, all companies, all NGO, all governments, and we have to work together. What is very important is the cooperation, you know, and it's key because it's so difficult, you know, particularly when you speak about climate change or about biodiversity, the loss of biodiversity. It's difficult to change. For example, our way of producing, our way of transportation, our way of packaging, and so on. So, in fact, we need to be together to be more responsible. And as I said, clients and consumers are now very attentive to what the company are doing about this subject. It's very important. Maybe to give you more example about our responsibility, as I say as a beginning, in fact, we are clearly inspiring and creating our product thanks to the nature. And our first commitment is to regenerate our soils, because the soils, thanks to the soils, we will have the quality and the prosperity of our business. So, for example, what we are doing, we are increasing biodiversity. As I said, is very important. We have a loss of biodiversity everywhere. You know, scientists say that biodiversity and climate change is quite the same fight, and we have to work on both ways. So, for example, to promote biodiversity everywhere in our vineyards, we have already acting. For example, we promote pollinators. Maybe we can have just one picture here. Thank you. We have pollinators near our vineyards. We put some hedges, you know, in our vineyards. This is very important because like that we can have fauna and flora come back in our land, in our terroirs. We use ships. We have a herd of ships everywhere for eco-grazing, you know, because we have decided to ban herbicide. Then we have herbs between the walls for our vine, and then thanks to ships, they cut off, you know, they graze the herbs, and it's better for the soils because it's better because you have not the same weight, you know, compared to a tractor or big machine. So this is better for the soils to use these animals, and it's nice, you know, to see some life like that in our vineyards. So as you can see, our responsibility is huge. We know that we have a clear responsibility, and further that, I would say, we need to be responsible. If we want to transmit our heritage, our nice brands to the future generation, you told that at the beginning, we need to be responsible because, as I said, we need to have a good quality for the soils. And, you know, we unfortunately, everybody in the world has pushed some intensive agriculture and so on. So we have to change our practices, and this is exactly what we have already started at Moët Hennessy, to be sure we can transmit the good soils and then the good quality, the good savoir-faire, the good know-how of our maison, of our brands to the future generation. And like that, we can continue to drink champagne. And we know that we all need champagne, and particularly at this time, I think it's very important.
Yeah, especially coming up to Christmas and New Year, yeah. I'm sure people will be stocking up.
Yeah, and after the COVID, I think we need, we need to be a little bit more festive, you know.
Mm-hmm. Yes, absolutely. I wonder, I was just thinking on the responsibility question, you both work for organizations who are really at the top of your game in your industry, you know, top 3 sailing races in the world, Moet Hennessy, you know, one of the biggest producers and companies in the space. We report a lot on Living on really small startup brands who are doing amazing things on sustainability and being very innovative, and they really launch their companies with sustainability really baked into what they do. And it strikes me that actually as big players in your industries, you have the resources to work on these things more so than a small company might have that, you know, could fold at any time because they aren't established in the market yet. So on that point of collaboration, how do you collaborate with smaller players within your industries? I'd love to hear any examples of that point of collaboration and cooperation that is so integral to solving this crisis.
So I could, if you're not pointing at someone specifically, I could join that, because for us, it's, I mean, all the sizes have of organizations, you know, have a role to play. So the smaller organizations will be more flexible, more creative, more innovative to be able to search for solutions, and bigger organizations will have the capacity to implement those at scale, to test, you know, the real impact of the solutions. So at the Ocean Race, the beauty of the program has been started from, you know, organically a little bit, but then it grew. So we are lucky enough to have our main premier partner, 11th Hour Racing, who's an organization that is aiming at integrating sustainability in sailing. And they're doing an amazing job in doing that, in pushing us to go even further. And that's then an example of collaboration. It's opening new lines of funding for the organization, new lines of discussions where we are creating impact. We're not only, you know, a logo on a sail, far more than that. So we're integrating along the journey philanthropists, NGOs, organizations. Last time we were supported by the United Nations Environment, the Clean Seas program. And we also have smaller brands that are joining us. We have a partnership with Helly Hansen, for example, for the clothing that are very forward-thinking in sustainability. And we want our race villages to be a showcase for sustainable innovation as well. So we want to avoid plastic packaging. We want to work on the material and all the issues that are affecting the ocean. And in the slide, it's highlighting a little bit all the examples of the areas we're working on. So we're working, you know, with fresh water provider that's allowing us to reduce. Last time it was more than 400,000 plastic bottles. So we're getting rid of single-use plastic at the race village. We want to engage the racing teams as well in the journey, creating powerful platform for knowledge, training sessions, guidelines, and we are also, you know, doing the learning program in partnership with different types of organizations that are helping us to reach the kids worldwide. We have now more than 200,000 kids in more than 50 countries reached worldwide, thanks to our, you know, open source, ready-made education program that is designed to, you know, inform the kids, inspire them into action from 6 to 12, and we're creating a secondary school program as well. So it's a very wide range of partnerships and organizations that are supporting us. And of course, behind us, we have Volvo Cars, who is a long partner of the Ocean Race and supporting us for all these programs as well.
Thank you. Sandrine, if you don't mind, we've had a question in via the comments specifically for you about Moet Hennessy. So I'll just put that to you if that's okay. So this is from Roberto. And he asked, I would love to know what Moet and Chandon are doing on the way in a way to stop using conventional energy in their wineries.
Yeah, thank you, Roberto, for the question. Yes, that's right. We are working, to switch from conventional energy to renewable energy. And we have already a nice initiative. For example, within Hennessy Maison, our maison who is producing cognac. And for the distillery, this is the main area where we need some energy, the distillery, and we just switch from gas, natural gas, to biogas. And then, and it's exactly linked to your question, Ruth. In fact, we started with a very small company to use this biogas, and thanks to the small company, in fact, right now we decrease our carbon emission due to the energy part, thanks to the biogas, to 90%. Of CO2. So it's really interesting for us, really interesting to work with this small company. And our role as a big company, is to push this solution of this company to our partners, because we are working with a lot of partners who use distillery as well and who use gas as well. So then we will push these great initiatives in order to increase, of course, the turnover of this company, this small company, and in order to be sure that our partners will decrease their emission impact as well. So I think it's a good initiative, and in fact, it's our responsibility to do something like that. In terms of renewable energy, we have another nice initiative at Belvedere. This is a vodka product, in Poland. And in fact, we have decided to use our waste, and use a new energy, a new renewable energy, thanks to the waste, to agriculture waste, transform it into biomass. And then, thanks to this energy, we source our factory in order to produce our vodka. And of course, we use some solar panels in Australia, because we have to adapt renewable energy clearly linked to the type of climate we have. And of course, we will continue to push. We really want to transform and to aim to have 100% of renewable energy everywhere we are operating. Of course, this is the sense of the story.
Thank you. Anne-Cecile, I know you do some really interesting things around energy on the boats. Can you tell us a bit about that?
Yeah, I think that's also another area where we understood we have some influence, so we can basically change the rules of the game, and it's not that easy, I can tell you. But we need to integrate. So, for example, for the next edition of the race, we have integrated in the rules that the boats need to be powered by at least 30% of renewable energy. So just for the people to understand, the boat don't use fossil fuel at all to be powering the speed of the boat. It's only with the wind and the knowledge from the sailors of the currents, but they need power on board to power the instruments, allowing them to navigate. And nowadays we're studying a lot of different possibilities, with hydro generation, solar panels, even electric engine on board to power the boats without fossil fuel. So we've managed to achieve 30% for the next race, and of course the objective is also to go beyond that and reach 100%. And that's where you mentioned collaboration. We know that the industry is working on innovations to be powering the boats without the fossil fuel, but it doesn't stop there. We also have a responsibility as event operator. So we've just now, that was a recent news, switched to 100% renewable in our headquarters in Alicante in Spain, which is great because it's showing us the way as well. And we're working a lot on all our race villages. It's 10 host cities, 10 different cultures, countries, and operations to make sure that we use the most renewable mix to power the race villages, and obviously the transportation as well. But another point that is interesting as well on this storyline is the fact that we are collecting data from the boats that are measuring the CO2 concentration. So it's a direct link to understand the acidification of the ocean. And what we always say is that we shouldn't be called planet Earth, we should be called planet ocean. 70% of the ocean, of the planet, is covered by ocean. And they are basically our lungs, our life support system. And what's happening out there at the moment is we're killing our own life support system. How ironic is that with our way we operate? So the way we want to push that subject forward is to highlight that there is an issue out there. And I can tell you, we're going in the most remote part of the planet, where the closest human being, it's called Point Nemo, in the Southern Ocean, is at the International Space Station from these boats. So it's quite remote. It's hard to picture even how remote it is. And when we measure, the state of the ocean and the capacity of the ocean to absorb CO2 out there, that's a very important information for the scientific community that we're giving back, obviously. And all the signs are indicating us that ocean acidification is rising. And that's a very alarming trend. So it shows us science-based information that we need to act on land at an accelerated pace to actually take action to curb the trend. And that's what we're about as well with the Ocean Race.
Great, I love that. A lot of stories we report on emphasize how important efficiency is, and it feels like such an efficient use of those boats going there. They're going there to race, but why not collect data while they're there and double down that impact? So I really love that example. I'm curious, when you changed the rules of the game, as you put it, how did your competitors respond to that?
By competitors, you mean the other sailing races or the participants, the sailing teams?
The sailing teams, exactly. Yeah, when you said that they need the 30%.
Yeah, so we've done a working group in collaboration with them, because we needed to make sure that it was possible. We didn't want to impose something that it was unachievable, and we need them on board as well with these rules. So we've created a working group, including sailing teams, including producers of this device, to make sure that we can at least guarantee that most of the teams entering the race could provide at least 30% of the renewable energy. And I have to say that the sailing team's response was really positive. I think they've understood. They've not only understood their impact but they've understood as an operation, as a team, but they've also understood the opportunity they have to engage further, than our own industry. We are reaching millions with the Ocean Race. It's a fantastic platform for impact and amplification for these messages. And the more the sailors out there that are an inspiration for youth, that are achieving the extraordinary, on the ocean, the more that they understand the issue and what's at stake, and the more they talk about that, the better. And then it's a call for world leaders to take action as well, from the sports community. And I'm very pleased to see all the sailing teams that are more and more concerned and on board for all these issues. So we're receiving a very, very positive feedback.
That's great. And the health of the ocean is so integral to so many things, for so many things that we all depend on to survive, but also I suppose for people who their professions are in water sports, there is such a need for them to protect the oceans, even Absolutely. More so than everyone else.
Yeah, and it's water sports, but it's also what we want to say is that the ocean has not had its place at the table of climate negotiations, for example, completely forgotten, despite many years of science. And it's not only touching the ocean, the coastal communities, which are of course the most affected. It's not only touching the small island developing states where the sea level rise will affect the most, but it's touching absolutely everybody on this planet. If we're damaging the ocean, we're damaging our own lungs in a way, so that's why it's so important. And you don't need to be living near the ocean or even an ocean lover to be concerned, and be able to take action, because in your everyday life there's lots of things you can do to actually curb the trend. So
Thank you. Sandrine, I suppose a kind of a similar example for you might be that, of course, with all of these things, we can be at kind of a head office operational level and decide targets we want to hit, decide initiatives that we want the company to implement. And I suppose for you, that would be the people who work on your vineyards, the producers. And so I'd love to hear how they respond to initiatives that you bring in on a company level.
Just before, if I can just to have an echo for what Anne-Cecile said, because of course we are quite a little bit far from ocean. We are clearly on the soils with our product. But anyway, you know, we are producing our product locally, but we sell it all over the world. And of course, in fact, we have to take care about the transportation of our products. So we have to be sure to use the cleanest transport for our product. And by the sea, it's quite, for the moment, the most clean solution for the transportation. And what I explained just before with Anne-Cecile, we have just signed a new partnership with a new company, you know, a small company, in order to go further, and they will build a cargo, but a sailing cargo. You know, so you will have a big boat to transport our products, but we will use the wind energy. You know, we will use some sails to go from France to the USA. So it's a nice initiative, you know, and in fact, we have just signed with NSC Maison. Last week, I think we signed the partnership with Neoline. This is the name of this new company. So, and we will have our first sailing cargo by 2023. So we hope, you know, to embark with us, to involve other brands, other companies, in order to test this new type of transportation. I think transportation, and you know, in our carbon footprint, in our total carbon footprint, it's quite important. And particularly, when you have a specific area for producing your product, and then you have an international image, it's very important to take care about the transport of the product. It's a big part in the life cycle of the product in terms of carbon emission.
Thank you. For anyone just joining, just a reminder that you're watching a debate from Euronews Living. And my guests today are Sandrine Sommer from Moet Hennessy and Anne-Cecile Turner from The Ocean Race. I'll take another audience question now, which leads on from what we were just talking about, which is transport and specifically long-haul flights. Now, we all know that they contribute a huge amount of emissions every year. And also this year has been so different when it comes to travel for leisure, but also business travel. So I wondered if within your businesses, how have you innovated, how have you pivoted how you do things when you haven't been able to travel in the same way? And that reduction in flights, is that something you would count towards reducing your impact, even if it wasn't entirely intentional, even if we were all grounded due to COVID? Sandrine, could you go first on that one, maybe?
Yeah. First of all, I would say, of course, we can't travel like everybody, and it's a little bit difficult. But in the other way, I think it allows us to work differently, you know, and to use the Zoom, the video conference, and so on. Maybe before we didn't use enough, and right now we can see it works, even if it's better when you can be together, you know, because the link, the human link, is a little bit difficult after a lot of months like this. But anyway, I think in the positive way, we learn to work differently, and that's not bad in terms of carbon footprint, and particularly for traveling. In the other way, you know, our activities were a little bit stressed due to the lack of visitors, and particularly in the airport and all in the travel retail activity. And for us, it's a little bit difficult because we sell a lot of our product in the different airports. And of course, this part of this activity has drastically decreased this year. So we can directly see the negative effects, of course, in terms of selling, in terms of our sellings on this particular part of the business.
I understand. Yeah, that travel retail I know is a huge part. In a former life, I worked for Bacardi, so I know all about the importance of travel retail to alcohol brands.
Yeah.
Anne-Cecile, could you tell us about? Because I suppose a perception would be that your operators within the race, competitors, even spectators, presumably need to do quite a lot of flying to get between the different destinations. But maybe that's an assumption.
Sorry, the connection was not 100%, so I haven't understood what the question, but it could be.
No problem. I was just saying there may be a perception that you would need to take, or the people who work for you would need to take quite a lot of long-haul flights to get between destinations for the races.
Yeah, I mean, for us, it's obviously as a major global sports event, flying people and freight, all over the world is one of our main impacts. And before COVID, we've already initiated a series of initiatives. So first we measured to really get a clear understanding of where was the impact. And then we've understood that we had to take a very strong, almost radical, action in trying to target those. So in every direction we could, we started to initiate new thinking. So we've measured by just optimizing the planning of sending people all around the world, we could reduce by almost 40% of our reduction. Just planning optimization was really one of them. The second one is the Ocean Race Summit series. We were organizing, environmental events by flying people, and then it didn't make sense. So we've completely changed the format of the event, localizing it. So we want to have at least 80% of the audience being local. That was before COVID. And then we're only flying people if it's absolutely necessary that an expert or a voice is there. We're thinking that his message and voice will be more important than the cost of the carbon impact. Lots of initiatives, of course, in waste management facilities and the stream of the waste we're having at race villages. And what can't be reduced will be going into, we don't like to say offsetting, it's more like carbon balancing, and we're highlighting at the moment the blue carbon initiatives. And blue carbon is all ocean-based plants, such as seagrass and mangroves. And we've understood from science that they are 10 times more efficient than trees to sequester carbon. So we want to invest the equivalent of our remaining amount of carbon into seagrass of mangrove restoration projects, so that we can somehow offset, and not only offset our carbon impacts to create the carbon neutrality objective, but we want to go beyond that and create a net positive impact. And we believe that the net positive impact will be created by our education programs, our inspiration platform, by the fact that we are at the race villages creating a sustainability experience. We're actually in partnership with the MIT, supported by our partner Euronews Racing, to create something as amazing as we can to engage the general public in that journey. So make them understand what's at stake, and by a change of their actions, they could picture what's the sustainable lifestyle looking like, in a very engaging and positive manner, because it's possible. You're changing a few things, and on a personal level, and I can tell you it was a hard one to decide. I have somehow forced my whole family not to take any flights on a personal basis, for a whole year. that was a challenge and an issue, but we've managed. Of course, COVID happened, and then it was easier for us to implement that. So I had a bit of an easy way out, but yeah, I think we have to influence everywhere we can, really.
Well done. That can't have been easy.
No, it wasn't. I was not very popular for a while.
but so important as a step to take. I'm going to take another question from the audience now, and just to say there's still time we have 15 minutes left. So if you're watching and you've got a burning question, something you want to pick up on that my speakers have talked about, please do send in your questions in the comments and I'll get to as many of them as I can. So this question comes from Marcus, and Sandrine, maybe we can go to you first on this one. Marcus said, sustainable development can be very disruptive for developing countries which aren't as wealthy. What are you doing to lessen the cost impact on your suppliers from less developed parts of the world?
Yes, it's a very good question. I always see a sustainable development as a way of creation, ways of innovation, because as we said, we have to change everything, and we have to change. For example, maybe I have a concrete example. I think it's better to start with this concrete initiative. You know, for example, we have to change our packaging, because our packaging in our activity is quite. We have to be beautiful, of course. It's really important in the mix of our product. You know, you have, of course, the liquid, but you have the packaging as well. But in fact, we have to decrease the weight of our packaging, and we have to decrease the size of our packaging, because for the moment, in our carbon footprint again, it's quite a big part in our environmental impact. So we have decided to work on packaging, and we have a very nice initiative with Renard Maison, you know, and with Renard, maybe we have a picture about that, because for the moment it has been launched only in France. So with Renard, we develop a new type of packaging, you know, to change and to switch from the gift box, the cardboard gift box, within what we call a second skin. If we can have just a picture to see the packaging of Renard, it could be better. In fact, this is a packaging which is completely adjusted for the bottle. Then you have less free space. So like that, you have completely around the bottle, and on top of that, it's a new type of packaging, and we are working with our suppliers, you know, to create this new type of packaging. It's a paper, but paper with 100% of recycled paper, and 100% which could be recycled at the end of the product. So it's a new type of packaging, like, you know, like the egg box in terms of material, you know. So this is and we work with our supplier to create this new type of packaging. And in fact, of course, we push right now our supplier to propose and to suggest this new packaging and this new material to other brands. And this is the way to maybe to answer the question, meaning, yes, we need innovation, for sure. Yes, we have to work together to imagine and to create new things. Yes, it's the role of a company to absorb maybe the extra cost at the beginning, because all creation, you know, you need to invest. So this is, I think, our role to invest in this type of new solution. And yes, after that, we have to offer this solution to everybody, you know, not just to keep to ourselves. When you speak about sustainable development, of course, it's nice when you are the first one to propose, to suggest a new solution. You know, we are all competitors between ourselves, but at the end, I think it's very important. We are not here just for ourselves, and we are here to be sure the next generation can live correctly in our world. So it means we have to push our strengths together to go further, because as I said, it's difficult, and it's difficult to find new ways. It's difficult to find the good balance in terms of economic point of view, because of course we are a company at the end. Even if we invest a little bit more, we have to be sure that it's economically viable for us. Otherwise, it's not sustainable development anywhere. So for me, it's quite clear when I explain for each new collaborator, for each new person who join Moet & Cie, I always explain that sustainable development is quite the best combination between people, planet, and profit, of course. So it's very important to find the best way about this with people. And so just to say, yes, we need to go together, and I think it's a clear role of a company and big company to invest a little bit more and to accept extra costs when you have an innovation and a new innovation to share with others.
Thank you. Anne-Cecile, could you tell us about how your operations interact with developing countries and how you lessen the impact on them or indeed help them with getting to a more sustainable place?
Yeah, it's of course a very critical issue, and we're having lots of discussions about that. And one example in South Africa last time when we arrived in Cape Town, the country was suffering a severe drought, and we had to reduce, shower time and water usage, in every corner of the organization. And with the help of our partner, Elemental Racing, we've left water. Freshwater, system device that is transforming the grey water into drinkable water on site as a legacy plan. But it's just one small example to highlight, how concerned we are with local issues. In Brazil, last time we have had an amazing feedback from the host city manager who said the ocean race has changed the city and its citizens forever. And God knows we know that they are suffering from plastic pollution in Brazil as well in many ways. So after the passage of the race, they've created, they've even invested millions in the waste management facility in new ways to sort and operate waste. They have engaged the 10 cities upstream the river. It's more than 600,000 people in plastic-free initiatives. They've created a week dedicated to plastic-free initiatives, gathering more than hundreds of solutions and innovations. It's been amazing to see the response of a local host city that's so concerned about plastic, and they were so innovative. They had organized themselves their own ocean summit and co-creation with the design thinking. So I think it was fantastic. We're trying to integrate that. It's not always easy because we are a global race. We are touring around with 2 sets of our race villages to give the most amazing experience to people, and we are actually, now that the next one is in October 2022, and we're also preparing one in Europe. So the Ocean Race Europe will happen in June next year, in how to somehow localize the message and engage with them. But I think that the more people will have understood, at scale, that the sustainable products have more than just a product. They also have a purpose. It will make all these products accessible also for lower income population and nations. So and also our restoration projects will go into people who usually can't afford, to have waste management systems in place, at a big scale.
Great, thank you. Really inspiring to hear about the Brazilian example as well. We've got another question from the audience, and this has come from Adrian. You've both referred to using wind energy in your operations, and he asks, why are there so many green taxes on wind energy? Should it not be free or cheap? I don't know if either of you has an answer on that one.
Well, wind for us is a bit of in our DNA, I have to say. Mm-hmm. So we're quite concerned about and trying to integrate, wind power. On the question of taxes, it's another mechanism that is supporting the development of wind energy. And as we know, these new renewable energy producers have huge costs, same as solar energy. So they needed some help to actually develop the products and services to be affordable. And on solar, I think it's last year, they've recently assessed that the amount of solar energy was really high, thanks to these taxes and thanks to this support from states. So I think, we need to look at the system as a whole and use every potential mechanism to support, innovation that are initially very expensive, to make them affordable for everyone eventually.
Yeah, and I suppose we're all living through the age of seeing the costs of fossil fuels and more conventional energy. So I think I would certainly say that the upfront investment is worth it and is necessary, until we can bring down the price of all of these things. Yeah. We're almost coming to the end of our time together. So I wonder if I could just ask both of you to answer a little bit of a philosophical question to finish. And it's something that, you work on sustainability, it's your careers, what you think about all day. And I wonder, how hopeful are both of you feeling at the moment? And maybe this strange year of 2020 has made you less or more hopeful. I'm not sure, but Sandrine, could you come back on that one first, maybe?
First of all, when you are working on sustainability, you are very close to the scientists and to the figures, and of course, it's more than alarming what we are living, and particularly this year, with this pandemic. So it's true. So, but in the other way, it's. I'm a positive person, and I really think it's an opportunity to change everything. We are in the middle of we have to act. We have to change, and we have the power to change. And so I think this is a great opportunity, and I'm very positive when I see the young generation. The millennials, the Gen Z. They are very agile. They want to act. They need some sense. So in fact, I'm very positive when I see the future generation. And if I'm looking at my future generation, when I see my children, my three of them are, of course, they feel like a citizen, so they really want to commit themselves, and they really want to act, and in their school. They are doing a lot of things, and when I see the program even in the school, I'm quite positive. I'm sure our young generation will continue and will accelerate what we do for the moment in this one.
Thank you. And Anne-Cecile, how about you? How hopeful are you feeling?
Yeah, after having worked in that space for 20 years, I have to say that I had ups and downs. As you said, we are deep diving into the reports and the brutal reality of the state of and the overwhelming situation. Sometimes, at times you're like, the subjects are so big that how my small influence can make any change. But then I'm so hopeful as well, because I see we are reaching a turning point of understanding. It took time. It took too long probably, but we are really seeing massive amount of changes from every layer of our humanity, from governments, taking laws. We are even talking now about recognizing the rights of nature in these ecocide initiatives to protect it, big scale. The rise of youth movements with Greta Thunberg, the mock COP as well, up to top down, the referendum going ahead, New Zealand initiatives as well to recognize climate emergency. So many restoration change is possible, at everybody's level. Whereas you're, a family or a business leader or, an institution or we can change our lives. And I'm seeing that happening. Now, is it going to be fast enough? Should it accelerate? There's no question about should we do it or should absolutely do it, but fast. And I'm hopeful that the humanity will show resilience, will show a cleverness in collaboration. And at the moment, it doesn't happen because the system is built in silos. So we need to explode the silos. We need to build alliances of interest, of purposes, and accelerate action. We have a decade in front of us. It's not a lot to change the whole system. But I'm very hopeful that we can do it.
Thank you. Thank you so much. We're at the end of our time together, so it just remains for me to say thank you so much to my guests, Sandrine and Anne-Cecile. It's been a really, really fascinating conversation. And I really hope that the next time we can do it together in person and maybe raise a glass of champagne together then as well. Thank you to everyone for watching. And don't forget to follow Living on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and our website as well. And we'll see you next time.